I need to say something before this video starts. Basically, I finished writing this script like a month ago, and I'm recording this basically the day before it's getting uploaded, but knowing me, that's probably not the case. And basically, when I went to record this video, the Full House on the Ocean series was re-released, and I still haven't watched it yet, but in the original script for this video, I say that it's gone, but obviously now it isn't, so yeah, enjoy the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a brand new video. It's good to be back making videos, and I figured it would only make sense for my first fully scripted video back to be about Monument Mythos, considering the last video I did about it is the most popular on my channel. Before we get too deep into this video, I would like to ask if you could consider subscribing. It helps out a lot and gives me motivation to make videos more frequently. Anyway, if you're new to this channel, don't worry. You probably won't need to watch the first video I made about Monument Mythos. However, if you're interested in why I like Monument Mythos and why I love, or I guess it's more why I loved analog horror so much, which you will see soon how my thoughts on analog horror have changed since then. Now, I'll be honest, since around January of this year, I kind of stopped following what was happening on Alex Kansas's channel. I didn't follow any of the House on the Ocean thing or whatever, except for I think like the one with Obama, and honestly I could not tell you why his channel is Mr. Manticore now to save my life. And prior to making this video, the last episode of Monument Mythos I watched was Air Force One Fallen Angel. So yeah, it's been a while. Alright, I'll stop rambling now and actually get into the video. I think a good place to start is with my expectations going into Season 2 and why I stopped watching analog horror and things similar to it. Now, the main reason I got tired of analog horror was because it was becoming far too samey for me. It was clear to me that it is very hard to be unique with analog horror. I tried to watch Watland Files, the Mandela Catalog, even more niche ones like CCTV Anomalies. At least I think that's what it was called. I'm not sure though, because when I went back to look for this one, I could not find it. I didn't even bother with Local 58 because I was slowly getting sick of the same predictable tropes and every series using the same techniques to attempt to be scary. And another thing that did not help was as analog horror grew in popularity, so did the memes that critiqued the genre to the point where even the creator of the Mandela Catalog made a video called Scrimbo Files. All of this culminated when I watched Air Force One Fallen Angel, and the video talking about a god beneath the earth, and that was a major turnoff for me at the time because I thought that Monument Mythos was going to fall down the same boring religious horror trope that has plagued the analog horror genre. And so I decided that I did not want to ruin Monument Mythos for myself, so I took a break from watching it or anything from the genre in general. However, after seeing Alex post about a Season 3 of Monument Mythos, which is called the Nixonverse, I got interested in the series again. My expectations going in were not as low or as high as you would think. I knew that there were good episodes in Season 2, some of my favorites. However, I was unsure of the new episodes and what direction the season would be going. Honestly, rewatching the old videos was a little bit nostalgic, even though it hasn't really been that long since I watched them. And after watching Season 2 of Monument Mythos, I can say that I enjoyed it, and now I'm going to talk about why. So this video is not going to be as structured as the first Monument Mythos video, since that video was more of an overview and a sort of why you should watch type thing. With this video, I'm trying something different and going for a bit more of a review style video. I think I'll start with some of the main differences that I noticed between Season 1 and Season 2 of Monument Mythos. The first season of Monument Mythos to me was very mellow and mysterious. To me, and I think many others, Season 1 is very surreal and almost dreamlike. And Season 2 happens and it's like, alright, remember the chill, creepy vibes from Season 1? Well, fuck that shit. Now there's a shady corporation, more named characters, and there's some shit that comes from Mars, and there's fucking 7-foot tall Egyptian swordsmen who patrol the Grand Canyon, and so much more just cool shit. And I think this is the main difference between both seasons. Season 1 is calm and creepy, while Season 2 is fucking cool and creepy. And I fuck with it. I promise I'll get back to being more structured in just a minute, but I love the concepts of the Giza Guardians. Like, I'm just picturing these super tall guys with Sephiroth blades, like just decapitating people, which is cool as fuck. And also, like, the boat that got stuck in the Suez Canal is a giant supernatural entity that walks around on giant legs. Like, what? Anyway, I'm getting carried away. The presentation of Season 2 is much more varied than how Season 1 was presented. Season 1 was mostly archival footage like schematics or interviews. However, Season 2, there are news reports, what I can only assume is a YouTube series, and of course, more of that sweet archival footage. Now, I'll be honest, like I already said, since the last video I made on Monument Mythos, I've become very desensitized to analog horror. So unfortunately, most of the scares didn't really get me. However, I noticed that Monument Mythos put less emphasis on scares, which I think personally is a good thing due to how memed on analog horror has become. And obviously, this doesn't stop the subject matter of these videos being terrifying, gross, and depressing. Like Dean Disaster, the concept of people dying due to literal sound waves is terrifying, and the imagery of bodies piling high in the streets is haunting. And the best part is that we aren't shown any of it. It allows our imaginations to fill in the gaps of what that would look like, which is honestly scarier than any imagery Alex could have put there. Now, in Season 2, there's a lot more, I guess, plot is the best thing to call it. But yeah, Season 2 has a lot more moving parts. There are characters with names, an evil corporation that owns Twitter, and a terrorist organization who are the good guys? Like, look, I'll be honest, I'm not the most competent when it comes to the lore of Season 2. My understanding is very minimal at best, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it. However, it feels like there's a lot more lore here than Season 1, and there's a lot of connections back to Season 1. There's a lot of what I would call sequel episodes, which would be something like Washington Wonderland, which continues the story of Virginia Arnoldson, the main focus of the Season 2 episode, Rockefeller Tree Tragedy. I think for this video, I won't comment any more on the lore. I'll leave that for people with more time and more than 2 functioning brain cells. But if a lore explained or theory video is something you guys want, let me know in the comments and I will try my very best to make that happen. The last thing I'm going to talk about before we delve into the very, very few negatives I have with Season 2, I really like the satire in Season 2. The whole concept of Twitter is so funny to me. Like, all the computers in America get fucked, and now everybody walks around with a Twitter device controlled by a shady company. I also find it funny how normal everything is presented. Like, all the supernatural shit is just a day in the life of someone who lives in this universe. And one thing I found especially hilarious was in the episode Suez Canal Crab. Just the idea of a bunch of people storming Egypt to reclaim their goods that were lost was so funny to me. Of course, it became a lot more unfunny when people started dying because of overcrowding. Now, on to the negatives, and well, look, I'll be honest, I don't really have anything negative to say, but at the same time, I know Monument Mythos isn't perfect, like nothing is. The main issue for me is that I want to talk about the visuals, but when I did that in my last video, someone in the comments pointed out that the shitty visuals are just a symptom of the universe this takes place in having very limited technology, which makes sense because a big piece of the lore is that personal computers got shut down in the US before the 2000s. Honestly, this is a very smart move because as far as I can tell, other than the voice actors, Alex makes all these videos himself. So incorporating the less than desirable visuals into the lore is a very good move. My next and final complaint does not have to do too much with the show as a whole, and I want to make this clear that this complaint is completely subjective. Basically, I hate that corner folk are connected to the Monument Mythos. Now, let me know if I missed something in the House of the Ocean lore, but the connection seems very forced to me, and in the moment it was cool, but then afterwards it hit me that corner folk will never get an interesting conclusion, or at least what I deem as interesting. I would have loved for it to be its own standalone series, and it really felt like the building blocks were there for something great. So in an effort to not end this video on a negative note, I'm going to briefly discuss some of my favorite episodes from Season 2. I'll start with Washington Wonderland. I really like this episode because rather than jump around from perspective to perspective and style to style, it tells one concise narrative that does not split for a second. And the story it tells is a good one, and the story of Virginia is one of my favorites in the entire series. I also really enjoyed the finale. Despite the whole corner folk thing, I think it was a great way to end the series. And finally, there's my favorite episode in the entire series, Fallen Father. To me personally, this is the scariest episode of Monument Mythos, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This video was made to pay a tribute to Alex's late father, and it feels like Alex is speaking to him in this video. The presentation of this video is very interesting to me. I remember my first time watching it and audibly laughing when the video just says horny on the screen. However, after this, it gets sinister. The main character talks about something following them and then starts running from the backyard into their house and frantically closes the window, and then silence. The silence in this is oppressive and suspenseful. I remember being on the edge of my seat as I watched the shadow of a giant floating head engulf the window. Truly terrifying. But I think that is where I'm going to end things. If you did make it this far in the video, you're a real one, and I appreciate that. And again, if you're new, consider subscribing. It's free, and it motivates me to post more often. And always, please comment any suggestions or just your general thoughts on the video. But yeah, that's all from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
I catch my look in a mirror. I don't know just who it is.